Auzubillahiminashaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu. Pakhair ragale. Ni hao. Tunashume. Washmale. Ohaya gunzaimus. Guten Morgen. Hola. Bonjour. Privyet. Kaifahal. Halishuma chatore. Alan wasalan. Marhaba. Buna. Mucho. Gracias. Swabiab. And a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PETV World and are watching World this morning alongside Shahzad Khan on the 21st of the month. And the day, ladies and gentlemen, is Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, for everybody who's out there within Pakistan, or may you be in any part of this world, since it's Friday, if it's Friday in your part of the world, please make sure to remember us in your prayers. This is something which everybody is in need of these days as well. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, today I think we've picked up the most interesting topic I have never ever talked about this particular topic in person or probably, on television as well. And it is interesting because of the fact that when I was studying in my university, I had an entire subject about this particular topic, which we had to pass, and it had 3 credit hours to itself too as well. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever we go speak with someone or whenever we go to see someone or whenever we are at a ceremony, whenever we greet someone, the person on the other side is actually looking at you and is actually going to take notes of what kind of a person you are. For example, the way you shake your hand, the way you say your name, the way you dress up, the way you look, everybody notices that. And these days, I think it is very important to have a good personality to yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, personality traits can vary from an individual to an individual. But then at the same time, people who are actually on the other side, for example, if I'm in front of the camera right now, I know that the camera is not judging me. But people who are out there, whose television screen I'm on, I think that, you really need to probably think about, what goes in my head and what comes out. And I think that everybody has got the right to judge within their own capacity whether this person is going to be good to me or not. But other than that, there was a survey in Australia, and yeah, it's very obvious. So 64% women said that if they were looking good, they felt good, and they performed well on their jobs as well, 64%. And only 52% men said that, yes, it has an impact on you when you dress up, when you look good, people tell you that you're looking good, it has an effect on the work. And I've said it myself so many times that, whenever I'm wearing jeans or a T-shirt, I'm more active or proactive. That's what it is. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, there are people who have a lot of difficulties in developing their personalities, may it be because of the fact that they stutter, may it be because of the fact that they do not know what color combinations will actually suit their skin tone. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'll have to get into the depth. Some people might not feel good about themselves because they think that they're fat. I'm sorry, I wanted to give my producer a picture of mine where I used to be 106 kgs and then I had to come back. I didn't like myself. I wasn't taking any selfies. I never wanted to be in a picture. But then I kind of stuck to it, and then I thought to myself that if I want to be great within this life and the life hereafter, I think what I need to do is work on myself in the first place and then recommend it to other people. So ladies and gentlemen, this is one thing which is very important. Today we have actually been joined by somebody who used to be 112 kgs, is 70 kgs right now. I think he's a success story which we wanted to share with you guys. Other than that, we've actually been joined by a clinical dietitian and a nutritionist and a psychologist as well. And we're going to ask them in the first place, what is the best kind of personality they think. For example, a lot of women say George Clooney is the best kind of personality, not knowing how he is off screen. Nobody knows, how he's off screen, for people in Pakistan at least. So we're going to get started. And why women, 64%? Yeah, because women do want to dress up as well. So I don't know, but my producer wants to share a picture with you guys. So let's, in the first place, share a picture with you guys. Okay, so this gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, is over here in the studios. He's more thinner now. I think he forgot to take a picture today as well, but he looks great as well. Ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce him, I've got somebody else to introduce, and she is a clinical dietitian and a nutritionist. And I'm very glad, I'm very thankful to her that whenever we require her services, she makes sure to be on time. Ladies and gentlemen, she's none other than Dr. Nosheen Abbas. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely perfect. It's great to have you, and you look lovely. Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you. Alongside Dr. Nosheen, ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined by that success story who was 112 kgs. He thought that his personality wasn't on point. He wanted to change a few things. what he did was he transformed himself completely. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a lecturer, he's an entrepreneur himself. He's none other than Mr. Shahzad Khan. Hello, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum salam. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much for joining us. So if you were 112 kgs, how would you have said Walaikum assalam? Well, do you think that the body language would have been different? All right, but thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you. Last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, it's very important what goes on in our brains. You know, for example, if we are not on top of our personality traits, and it is important to understand because as a matter of fact, you know, there are things which you do not like happening to you. For example, being fat these days, particularly, people are very more aware. I think they're more aware, they want to be fit, but then eventually they cannot stop eating. Why? This is something which we need to ask her. She's a clinical psychologist and she's none other than Miss Mashiyat Zara. Hello, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Walaikum salam. Allah ka shukr, I'm good.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you, all three of you. But let me ask you a question, Dr. Saiba. Now, we all say that, you know, a person needs to be in great shape. He needs to be a good speaker. Needs to be tall, dark, and handsome. And do you think that this is the right definition of a good personality or a great personality?
Well, Shahzad, for me, I think a personality is something when you walk into the room without talking or without communicating with anyone, you make the other person comfortable.
Okay.
Your aura and the smile on your face.
Are you talking about me?
Yes, like you, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
These are the two important things which has impact on the other person.
Okay.
Rather than, you know, just introducing yourself and letting them know how you are and how you talk and what are you doing.
Yeah.
Just by walking into the room and carrying a good smile, and your aura should be make the other person comfortable.
Wow.
That for me, that's a good personality.
So this is good personality
Yes,
for you.
absolutely.
So that the aura needs to be good and, and the person needs to carry a smile.
Absolutely.
Doesn't really matter if he smells bad, if he's not wearing good clothes. I mean, if he...
You never know what kind of situation that person...
If he does not brush his or her teeth.
Oh, well, these are the personal details, you know. It's just about, you need to understand maybe that there might be something going in the background.
Yeah, okay.
You need to understand that.
For you, aura
yes,
and a smile.
Smile.
That's what works.
Yes.
Siraz, what about you? Because you have seen the picture from both the ends.
Yes.
Yeah, so what about you?
I
Being
have.
fat is nice or being thin and slim is nice?
Well, first of all, I would actually divide personality into two parts. One
Go
is
ahead.
the implicit part and the other is the explicit part.
Okay.
Talking about
Let's
the
start
implicit
with the
part,
explicit one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The explicit part is, as Dr. Nasheem described first, that it is the visible part of your personality, how you dress, how you actually make the other person comfortable. It's like more like when you talk to a person and make him more comfortable, and how you gel in with that person, it ultimately links with the implicit part.
Okay.
And if I come in towards the implicit part, what I would say is there are basically three things in the implicit part. The first thing is your analytical assimilation skills. How good can you actually analyze a situation or analyze anything?
Critical analysis.
Yeah, critical analysis. Then I think what is more beautiful that you can actually speak in the way that you're thinking of that thing.
Exactly.
And then I also think it's personally reading and writing of that person. That's an imperative part of your personality.
Yeah.
It's an imperative part of personality development.
Yeah.
So for me, it's divided into two things: the implicit part and the explicit part, and both of them complement each other.
And you think that they both of these parts needs to be gelled together?
They need to be gelled.
Which is
Otherwise,
why
you're not a complete.
I just remember one thing. So last night I went out with my family to watch a film, Aladdin. And so the genie comes out of the lamp and, you know, makes Aladdin a prince, and, you know, Aladdin goes to the princess and he wants to marry the princess. And then Aladdin decides that, you know, okay, what I'm going to do is that before I make the last wish, I'm actually going to make a wish that I stay a prince for the rest of my life. Where the genie comes up and the genie says that eventually your inner self is going to take over you, so you really need to decide who you actually are. And I think that this is something which I'm going to pose to Mashiyat over here. How do you think, I mean, for people whom you meet in the first place, you know, some people are very warm. Some people, I mean, especially because I'm from the industry, I get to see a lot of people who are very dry. And then I get to see people who actually have their own assumption of who they are in the other people's eye as well. So how do you think that we can actually gel in the inner part and the outer part so beautifully that people say that you're the George Clooney or somebody, you know, you get a compliment like that?
see, when we talk about the personality, personality is something which is inborn, and what are the circumstances we have faced during our childhood and the adulthood.
Okay.
So personality for oneself should be something which I feel good about myself.
Yeah.
Talking about how I look, what is my weight, that is not personality for me.
Right.
Being a psychologist, psychology says that personality is something I feel good about myself. Whatever my color is, my complexion is dark or fair, my weight, my education.
Yeah.
You will relate to this, that we met so many people who are not so educated, not very pretty, but they have a very elegant and attractive personality.
Yeah.
So that is something which is in your mind.
Alright.
If you have a healthy mind, then you would definitely have a good personality.
Okay.
Because if I am not feeling good and I don't have that intellectual level, and I feel that I am so big and I need to be arrogant with others, so there will be a problem with my mind, which is teaching me to treat someone like, oh, if I wouldn't impose myself on them, maybe they feel कि मैं किसी like नहीं. So
Yeah.
this is something which is in my mind.
Exactly. Thank you very much for saying that. And I think all three of them have got some valid points to share about how a person can actually have a good personality, or what are the traits of a good personality. But other than that, before I move on, ladies and gentlemen, within my own personal opinion, I think that, every time if I listen to a song which is like na 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 no promo, or something of that sort, so it will have an impact on my personality. And I think that there are so many things out here in the world which has an impact on your personality. And if I'm going to meet a person who actually knew me 10 years ago, and now if I'm going to see him, he will actually be like that you're not even 1% of what you were 10 years ago. Now this is something which we need to speak about. So Shiraz, ladies and gentlemen, used to weigh 112 kgs. I don't know why, what he was eating, or was his mother like, oh putter kha kamzor ho gaya. So things like that. So Shiraz, do you want to speak about it yourself? What happened? How did you become so fat?
Yeah, well, actually, I was consistently into this habit of eating all day long, so I couldn't keep my stomach empty.
Munching.
Yeah, it was munching consistently 24/7.
Wow.
So I was so obsessed with eating that even before sleeping, I used to make sure that I eat something. Otherwise, I couldn't sleep properly. But transforming my life and becoming healthy and reducing my weight, it's not actually directly linked to being fat or feeling that or being very unhealthy or something like that, but it's actually connected to my illness. About 10 to 12 years back, I started facing symptoms like continuous breathing issues, chronic breathing issues, acid reflux, and irregular bowels. And then with the passage of time, the symptoms started elevating, and new symptoms started adding into my life. Like I started facing tremors in my hands, muscle cramps, joint pains. I mean, every second day or third day, or after every 7 days, when I used to wake up, I used to feel muscle cramps without any reason. I felt a lot of joint pains in my body. So I was a very good athlete. But I stopped playing, and I stopped doing sports. So actually my personality started to change, and I started getting affected through my illnesses. Then there came a point of time, it was exactly 1 year before, I actually collapsed, and I was bedridden. I had a lot of
112
breathing.
kg is not that much of weight.
No, it's actually an autoimmune condition. I was allergic to many things. And I went to Shifa hospital, and I kind of did my allergy test, and I found out that there are, I think, approximately 32 airborne elements, out of which 21 I am allergic to.
Okay.
And then I was also allergic to a lot of foods.
Which you were eating previously.
Yeah, which I was eating. So I started the medication and the prescribed course by the doctor. But somewhere I wasn't happy, because I was taking a lot of medicines. I was taking 9 medicines a day.
Okay.
And I obviously, a young person like me, I'm 31, and I wasn't feeling happy taking 9 medicines. I used to carry a bag with me along to anywhere that I used to go. So I started researching on internet, and not these common blogs on the internet, but I actually started reading different proper nutritionists like Dr. Dean Ornish's book. Then there are many other, like there's an athlete, Rich Roll.
Yeah.
He's a vegan, so I started following his diet plans, and I wanted to see how did he actually transform himself. And there were many other doctors, like Dr. Sebi, he was a herbalist, and I went into every field of research that I could.
You wanted to change yourself.
I wanted to change myself, and the thing that I wanted to find out was I actually wanted to cure myself. I didn't want to suppress or manage my life, manage my illness. I actually wanted to cure myself. So then, after doing a lot of research, what I did was I found out that the basic key to my transformation is diet. And that is what I would recommend to everyone is, for me, 70 to 80% is diet and 20 to 30% is exercise.
I think that is for everybody else as well. This is what the universal law is.
Yes.
But if my producer can share the pictures of Mr. Shiraz on screen, I think that'll be great for people who are actually watching us right now, because Shiraz right now, ladies and gentlemen, looks like as if he's got six-pack abs and whatnot. but the way he used to be was just one big bag, You know, so you can see over there, and wow, that's quite a lot of transformation.
And this
Even
happened within 1 year, right?
Within 1 year.
Wow, mashallah.
And within 1 year, alhamdulillah. But then, now I'm going to move on to Dr. Saiba over. So Dr. Saiba, I've done the same myself. When I was getting married, I was 106 kgs, brought it down to 87. And eventually I could feel it that, I was starving myself. I had hair loss. And I didn't know, whether I was doing it the right way or not. So how do you think that people can do it the right way? Because then half of the time, I think that people who are dieting are malnourished. They're not dieting.
Yes, they're not dieting. You're very right. You need to understand your body demands first of all. Like Shiraz said that he was facing multiple problems, right? So he was being lucky enough that he started following some professional people. Unfortunately, what happens is Shahzad, that what people do once they plan to lose weight or gain weight, they simply Google it. Whatever plan is there, just start following it. So you need to understand that whatever conditions the person was in who uploaded that plan, you don't know. You first you need to understand, maybe like simply there's a diet going on nowadays known as keto diet. I do recommend keto diet, but first of all you need to know your lipid profile. What is lipid profile? That's your cholesterol levels, triglycerides level. That because keto is already a high fat diet. So if you start following it blindly, you will end up into a problem. So first thing first, that you need to know what is happening to you, what are your problems, what is your body demand, and try to note down what are your bad habits, eating habits, sleeping habits, whatever that is. Then consult a proper nutritionist, what I suggest. Shiraz, he consulted books, proper doctors, international doctors. But what happens is, if you simply Google them down, there are certain success stories, but you don't know the age factor. Maybe he was or she was 20 years old, they started. Because the moment you cross your 30s, your metabolism slows down. And now if you're 35 and you're following somebody's plan who's 20 years old, you don't know. And maybe their body demand was 2000 calories a day and your body demand is like 3000 calories a day. Then you need to know the difference.
Exactly.
Consult a proper nutritionist, a clinical dietitian. So understand first and then start following. Otherwise what happens, you're very right, we start starving ourselves. And when you start starving yourself, your body goes into a resistant mode. Because body is as complex as your mind is. So once they know that you're depriving them of something, the body controls all the fats and all the reservoirs you have. So you need to really understand your body.
Exactly, that's great. So which is why, Shiraz, I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to ask you, so what did you do? I mean, after following all of this, and you obviously researched very well as well, but then by the end of the day, it's the mothers in the kitchen. And they're like, oh, beta, ye nawala reh gaya, ye bhi kha lo. And they do not understand that, it's not good for the health of their son or daughter. How do you think that we actually make them understand? How did you do that?
Well, I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to go through this pain with my mother, because my mother was really understanding and she helped me out. But my mother is old and I didn't want her to be making food for me. So it's like, as Shakespeare says, that all things are ready if our minds be so. So it's first that you actually need to be prepared that you want to change your lifestyle and you're ready to do it. And you have to go through the hard way. It's not easy. Like yet again, I would quote another quotation, as they say in the American Navy SEALs, that everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die.
Yeah.
So you have to go through that process. What I did was that I started waking up 1 hour earlier to my previous routine.
Okay.
And then I went into the kitchen and I made all of my food myself. So it's actually more about being prepared. It's the preparedness.
And what were you eating?
Well, lots and lots of vegetables.
Okay.
I used out of those vegetables, 50% of the vegetables were raw vegetables.
Okay.
I didn't use to cook them. Like, I mean, cucumber, carrot, maybe cauliflower, but low
Broccoli.
steamed,
Lettuce,
lettuce and
avocado.
all these things.
Yes.
Kale, spinach.
Yeah.
The first thing that I used to do when I woke up in the morning was
how did you eat it all? Spinach as well?
yeah, I did.
Raw?
Yeah, I actually
Well,
did.
do you think you're a Popeye or something?
No, it's not about, well, it's actually the mental state.
Yeah.
I was actually prepared to do anything in order to cure myself.
Wow.
So maybe this was a reason that I went into a state that I was willing to do anything to feel healthier.
That's great.
But you can have spinach and kale. There are certain smoothies in which
Yeah,
we put
exactly.
raw.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you consume that.
But you know, it's a smoothie, you know, you can still probably consume that.
Yeah.
But having spinach raw makes me feel like a goat.
Popeye the same.
No, it's actually what I read and understood was that you need to eat raw vegetables because they have their nutritional values,
Yes.
and if you
Yeah.
cook them on high heat, so you lose those nutritional
Exactly.
values. So the first thing that I used to do when I wake up was 1 teaspoon of honey in warm water,
Yeah.
and then I went downstairs. I went into the kitchen. I made a smoothie, and I actually anything that I could grab. It would be spinach, kale, cucumber, broccoli, hemp seeds, sesame seeds, or
Anything
that
organic.
dates. Any fruit that you
Yeah.
want to add into. Normally, I didn't go for any fruit because I used to keep the fruit part after the smoothie. And then I made my own breakfast bowl. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. My breakfast bowl, typical breakfast bowl was quinoa is a type of a grain.
Yes.
And what I researched was that it has the most complete profile of protein. So it's more, it has a lot of nutritional value for your body.
I think Dr. Nashin, if you can second that or not.
Yes,
is
yes,
that correct?
absolutely. Quinoa is a very good replacement.
Okay.
So it's not easy to find it. What I
it's
did
an
was that
expensive one though.
but I found a solution for that. The biggest problem is not expensiveness; it's about the product availability.
But
Because-
Shiraz, I tell you now, because I'm in this field, I see that they're now the small shops. I'm not going to take the names, but the ones which have organic stuff, they have started keeping these things
Yes,
on their
they
counter
have.
because now they know that people are actually looking for that.
and people are more aware now.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
we as the doctors and people who are well aware, they have started asking for it. So now you can find quinoa on the counters now. But
the solution that I found out was that obviously because I believed in research. So what I did was that I went to Kosar because a year back I couldn't find it easily.
Yeah.
So what happened to me in Kosar was that often out of, like, for example, out of 5 times I would find it 2 times, but I wouldn't find it 3 times.
It's like my mother is unable to find coffee these days. I don't know why.
Coffee?
Yeah, and
Really?
she's saying that, oh, I forget it every time. Ammi, please, I need it in the morning. Yeah.
So what
Right.
I did was that there was a brand name by the name of Dali. It was comparatively cheap, quinoa. So I took a photo of that packaging. I called that person, and they actually produce in Lahore. So now he directly supplies it to me at my home.
Wow.
So I just buy a complete stock of for
That's
1
it.
month.
So,
and I-
everybody, if you're in need of such ingredients, please make sure to call Shiraz or probably write to us. You know, we will make sure that people deliver it to your place. Okay, then what happened?
So I was telling you about the typical breakfast bowl. Quinoa, I make my own coconut milk. You can actually see the ingredients
Great,
through YouTube. Coconut milk, it may be oats or quinoa, any one of them. Fresh berries, frozen berries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries,
that's interesting.
blackberries. Then dates or figs, injeer, apple, banana, anything that you want to, in the morning. And it was a huge bowl. So it's actually quite filling.
Wow, that's
And then after that, I used to make 3 lunch boxes for myself because it's, as I told you, it's more about being prepared. So you don't have to go outside and see here and there that, what can I eat now.
What was in the lunch boxes?
Lunch boxes, there were many different things. Like for example, I do not eat anything that is packaged or processed.
Absolutely.
So there's a simple rule.
No carbs, no parathas, no chawal, no nothing.
No,
no
I
rice.
do get the carbs too.
Exactly. For the vegetables, he was getting the
Vegetables,
carbs.
and then I have oats and quinoa. I don't know, they don't have that much quantity, but sometimes I eat a chapati of roti of different flours like corn flour, bajra, or
And cooking oils. Which oil did you use?
well, what I understood was that I shouldn't be using oils, but in order to meet that fat requirement or that better, I use olive oil or coconut oil, cold pressed, 1 teaspoon in my salad.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
great.
use it
And
for
That's lovely.
cooking.
That's the point. You don't need to cook your food in olive oil.
Exactly.
Because the heating point the olive oil has is different from other oils.
Exactly.
So it's just like burning your own money.
Exactly. That's what it is. And the best part is, ladies and gentlemen, Shiraz actually helps himself because of the fact that he kind of considered each and every bit of the diet. May it be the protein, may it be the calories, may it be any other type of intake or the fat intake, which was very important for his existence. But then at the same time, we're going to move on to Mashiad before we head out towards the break. Now, Mashiad, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of women, in majority, they want to diet, they want to be good, they want to look good, but they cannot do that. And I've seen people who've actually been telling me for the last 4 years that I'm going to the gym, but it's not working. Does that really happen?
Yes.
Okay, how? Thyroid?
See, one example is my own self, that I was doing my thesis, and recently I've completed my research and I'm writing articles. So my mother is a very good cook and she used to cook for me. Kha le, kuch ho jayega, kha le. So whenever I'm doing my work, now she is giving me different kind of foods.
Yeah.
Let's eat. And I have here
And
in...
whenever you study, you feel more hungry, I think.
Yeah,
This is what it is.
because I do have a habit of munching. And one other reason is that your biological reason, genetics are very much important. She will second me that if you have genes of that weight gain is easy for yourself, that could be happen. And another thing is motivation. As you shared your story that when you was getting married and that was the motivation that I have to look good and then you
Well,
can
it wasn't
use.
really that, but yeah, it worked.
So there should be a motivation for someone. I know people who want to join army and they lose a lot of weight within 1 month.
Exactly.
And they lose around 22 kg weight. So the point is the motivation, your determination, and what you are going to get about that. Okay. So here we try to communicate, and we want to discuss this thing with our client that don't do your weight loss or your goals should be realistic, and you should do for yourself, not for someone else.
Exactly.
See, if I have this much of weight, I will develop lots of diseases, can be heart attack and many other, sugar or anything. So the motivation level should be that I want to live. If I get this life, I have to spend it in a good way. So that would be a motivation.
Exactly. That is very important. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, we have to go for a short break. You don't go anywhere, because when you guys will come back, there are 2 questions which I need you to ask. And that is that we see these amazing superstars on the silver screen. And while they're not working in the films, they've got these big bellies, big faces, whatnot. But as soon as they're in the film, oh, they look spick and span and smart. How do they do that? Is it steroid or probably the testosterone replacement therapy? I mean, what is it? Is it legal? Should we do it? Is it healthy or not? And then the second question will probably be that, since we earlier mentioned, at the start of the show that there is an inner self to your personality. And since we're talking about personality development, how do you think that the inner self can actually be developed in a way that you in the first place need to have a resolve with your own inner personality and that Allah is happy with you? I think this is something which we need to work on. We're going for a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. For everybody who just got tuned into PT World, you what you want this morning. And the smile is for a reason. I just heard my researcher's voice in my ear, and I'm very happy that he's actually finally made it to the show. Welcome back, Hasnan. And before going towards the break, ladies and gentlemen, there was one simple question that was that, we see these superstars on the silver screen. They're so dedicated that when they're off the screen, they're fat and they're bloated and whatnot, but once they're on the sets, they look superb, and the kind of dedication they have, I think, is very different. I think it's supernatural, and people who actually want to work on their personalities, they really need this kind of dedication. They really need this force against the resistance within their own heads as well. But I think that there's something very fishy which they do too as well. I think it might be injecting themselves with steroids or probably something else. I mean, this is this magic thing going on. 3 months, you're superb, six-pack abs, whatnot.
Well, it depends, Shahzad. The thing is, other than steroids and all, there are different surgeries also now.
Okay, yeah.
Like stomach stapling, bariatric surgery. People, they do go for that, and especially in this field, they keep it hidden, right?
Oh, yeah.
And the fact, that's going fishy, so it's and they're going in the background, and when they come to the screen,
Yeah.
they're all over the different, no?
Yeah.
So the first thing, they haven't seen themselves, and every person wants to look good.
Yeah.
When you see yourself on the screen and you look superb, then that's the biggest
Yeah.
motivation they have. And secondly, they are earning from it, right?
Yeah.
You can do anything if you are getting millions from that look.
Yes.
You can do anything.
That to
from
millions of dollars, not
yeah,
rupees.
yes, millions of dollars, so you can do anything for that. But other than here, hormonal therapies, there are multiple surgeries, there are multiple other ways of losing weight, and they're going on a high protein diet. In that protein diet, even people are only on the protein shakes, they're not even consuming the meat or the pulses or anything else, they're just consuming the whey protein shakes.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things which is again not healthy, but they have professional help. Do not follow random, they always take a professional help.
Yeah.
So again, my point is, please go for a professional help.
All right.
Otherwise, you will end up into something which will be out of control for you.
Exactly, which is why I want to move on to Mashiad once again. So now I've seen people going, beyond their limits as well, to get themselves into a good shape so that they look good, their personality looks good too as well. But then I've seen people taking it to another level where they're fanatic, where they do not really consider that it might be injurious for them if they're going to take this kind of medication to get themselves to be slim. How do you think that they can avoid that? Because then, from passion to, I think it's something which is going to be chaotic in your life.
See, in Pakistan, unfortunately, we don't consider eating disorder as a mental disorder.
Yeah.
We think that it's just a phase and just I'm controlling myself. But there are so many disorders. One is that late night eating disorder, eating disorder, anorexia nervosa. There are some conditions in that you are considering yourself overweight, even you look underweight.
Yeah.
And you stop eating and you malnourish yourself, that I don't need to eat because I will be not looking good, or I will be fat, or people will make joke of me and they will make fun of me.
Yeah.
Problem is that, and unfortunately, females suffer from these disorders 10 times more than men.
Exactly.
And one research in America, we don't have fact and figure of our country. In America, 10 million men and 20 million women are suffering from eating disorders.
Yeah, I think I've got this disorder too as well. As soon as I wake up during the day, I need to eat something. Otherwise, I'm going to start yelling or something. I need something to eat. But I've controlled that emotion of my own, and I think it took me a little time as well. But it's harmful, and you just cannot control it.
Nutrition and emotions are directly linked.
Especially if there's molten lava in the fridge or probably a Magnum, I'm going after it. So the kids are actually, because it's summer vacations, everybody wants to eat ice cream.
Yes.
So the other day, my nephew walked in with a bar full of ice cream, and I was like, "What are
And
you
one
eating?
more
Give it
thing
to me."
I would like to add, psychology says when we eat together, we eat a lot.
Okay.
So one thing I think which is the main cause of our fat is that we are living together
Exactly.
and we are eating together.
Exactly,
That's
but since we're short of time, so very quickly before we went out for a break, there's one thing which I wanted to ask, and that was that, and we've mentioned about inner self as well. And when we think about inner self, there's so many things which we might be guilty of, and we think to ourselves that, if I wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have regretted it as well. how do you think that you can have resolve with your inner self as well? I mean, for the outer self, everybody speaks. Who do you think is a good person within their own selves? What kind of thoughts do you think that they share? A good person will share to his or own herself.
First of all, you need to make peace with your mind and the heart,
Yeah,
right? Because the war between the two will never let you live in peace.
exactly.
So if, and I tell you
So
that,
who do you listen to, the heart or the brain?
well, it's both ways.
Come on, you
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
be honest.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no,
within
it's-
your own self,
no,
you're
no,
more
but sometimes-
emotional or you're more practical?
I'm more practical.
You're more practical.
I'm more practical.
Okay, with an
And-
emotional balance?
Yes, kind of. I
यार वो
can't.
क्या कहेगा, ओके, मैंने
Well,
ऐसे कर दिया।
sir, there is a point when you take a surrounding pressure, right? But still, I'm more practical. I look for something that, okay, what will happen if I take this decision in the longer run?
Yeah.
So that's something, emotional, you take instant decisions.
Yeah.
When you're practical, you think over it, you look in the surroundings, you think about other people, and then you take a decision.
Exactly.
So I'm more practical, and I think, but the thing, initially when I was, I think, young, I was more emotional. But with time and things in life and everything, I think the practicality
You've
has
settled
come.
down.
Yes, yes.
That's great. What about you, Shiraz?
Well, considering Dr. Nasheem's point, I would say that it is imperative that you actually need to control your emotions in order to use your intellect.
Exactly.
Like there's a very basic example, Daniel Goleman gave the concept of emotional intelligence. In his book, Emotional Intelligence, he quotes a very basic incident. He says that there's a student who actually needed straight A's in order to get a distinction, but he got 1 B plus in physics, the rest he got straight A's. So he was actually angry and blaming the professor that it is because of him that I didn't get these grades. So he kept a knife with him. He went to his home and he rang the bell. He came out and then he started stabbing that professor.
Okay.
This is a true story.
Yeah.
And Daniel Goleman puts a very basic question that if he's so intelligent, the fact is established that he is intelligent because he's taken a lot of A's.
Yeah.
Then why did he do this? And this means that EQ is an important part of your life. So you
Yeah.
need to be emotionally intelligent in order to use your intellect.
Exactly. That's great. Mashia, very quickly, since we're running out of time.
I'm emotional.
You're emotional.
That's
Okay,
it.
that's great. Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you, and it's wonderful to see people with such great personalities. Thank you very much for gracing my show. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, there's just one simple thing which I think has worked out for me, and that is anything you do in life, just think about two people, your father and your mother. And if you think that they're going to accept that, go ahead with that. If you think they're not going to accept it, don't do that. Because before your mother and father, there's Allah who's actually created you, loves you more than your father and your mother. But over here in the world, on this planet, I think that there's, वो कहते हैं ना कि खुदा का रूप होना, that's your parents. So please make sure to believe in them and listen to them, but not in your eating habits. Do write to us on our Facebook fan page, which is with the name of World This Morning. On Twitter, it's World This Morning without a G. On Dailymotion and YouTube, it's World This Morning. The fabulous repeat is going to be at 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, look after yourselves and have a great weekend.